Okay, so I switched over from Vengeance to Havoc around 65, and then I did time walking to get to 70. I've done some things in the Emerald Dream. I did one game of PvP. I did some more time walking to do the weekly quests, get my one piece of gear from that. Um, so I've done a few different things. So I kind of know how everything works, um, and have kind of had a chance to play with everything. I've ran some older raids for the trading post, and then just kind of mount farming, just to play around, kind of remember what everything did. I haven't played Demon Hunter a lot since Legion. I did play I did pre-purchase Legion, so I was able to play Demon Hunter early. Um, it didn't last too long though. Once I got into Discipline Priest in Legion, which is where they kind of made the big changes to Discipline, um, so it works more like it does today. Um, I mostly played that through Legion, and then didn't really do much with Demon Hunter during Battle for Azeroth or Shadowlands. So, kind of a clean slate of sorts. I remembered how some things worked, but with the talent trees and everything, it was kind of a fresh start. So, um, I'm going to. So this will be in two parts again. So this will be more of kind of like a simplified overview. And then the second part will be me resetting the talents if you're curious, interested in how I came to pick what I did. So, what I'm going to do is go over the abilities that I have, because I pretty much just use the abilities that are on my command bar for the most part. I don't have a lot of other utility or anything. And then just kind of go over, kind of highlight a few, talk about a few of the abilities. Um, I think that tends to work better. Um, so, that being said, I set up my command bar um, a bit weird from what I normally do. So, one reason why I wanted to play Demon Hunter was I kept, during Season 2 and Season 3, when I was doing Mythic Plus, kept seeing Demon Hunters, kept um, seeing where people were saying like they were really good in Dragonflight, and kind of from what I'd seen and everything, they were a bit overpowered, and I would say that is not unfair to say. That's fairly true, especially Havoc. Um, Vengeance will not die. They emphasize more kind of CC and healing survivability. Um, so you can go in. I did some Dragonflight dungeons. I did I think, some time walking dungeons, and you will not die. Havoc will do a ton of damage. The one thing I will say, the one criticism I have, is the same criticism that Havoc's always had, which is it does not have it is not good at self healing. It does not have a reliable self heal. You do have, as with Vengeance, you do have your soul fragments. And you will get soul fragments fairly easily, fairly often. You don't have to work too hard. It's not like it's a chance, and it's more of a um, kind of a rare occurrence, like I remember it being in Legion. You do get them fairly often, Whether you get them when you need them is kind of a situational thing. Um, Same thing. Um, I'll go ahead and mention same thing with like Fury. You do get Fury fairly easily. You won't have issues with that as Vengeance or Havoc. Um, Again, between having Fury and having an ability off cooldown in order to use it, it's kind of a situational thing. The nice thing about Fury is a lot of the passives that generate Fury do so over time. So between the cooldown of the abilities and generating over time, um, as long as you're using something, you won't waste much Fury, if any at all, and you should have everything kind of available when you need it. So, um, as I said, to go over the abilities I set things up somewhat parallel to how I had Vengeance, just because um, I had it in mind. Like some things were more just for kind of priority. Some things I kept on cooldown. Some things I needed to use when they were off cooldown. So like Blade Dance. For Vengeance, this is where I would have Demon Spikes. You kind of want to use it when it's available. Um, and then like I Beam, I had Fail Devastation here for Vengeance, so it's just kind of the channeled ability. They're setting Vengeance up a little bit more to work like Havoc. So there wasn't a big difference in switching. Obviously, one's a tank, one's DPS, so that was kind of the main thing. Most of your abilities kind of somewhat translated over between one or the other. Um, so I have Blade Dance to begin with, Immolation Aura, Chaos Strike, Demon's Bite, Sigil of Flame, Fail Rush, and I Beam. The only two abilities that I do have on both specs, so Immolation Aura and Sigil of Flame are in the exact same spots they are on Vengeance. Um, so I will open with Immolation Aura and then typically use Blade Dance, whether it's for AoE or single target. I have some talents, took some talents that make this good for either or. So this was one of those abilities that was kind of a signature ability when Demon Hunters first came out. So it's good in either or situation. And then typically, if you can group up enemies together, which is a lot easier to do on Vengeance because you have Sigil of Chains, so they'll just kind of that'll pull everyone together. You do have Chaos Nova, which will stun, which can be helpful in the right circumstance. Um, if you can pull uh, group up like a mob together and then use this, you will do a ton of damage. Um, so you definitely almost always want to use I-Beam when it's off cooldown. So that being said, to focus on a few things. So Blade Dance, first of all. As I said, I took a couple things that have been in the game for a while. So if you've played Demon Hunter before, you'll be familiar with these. So Blade Dance deals chaos damage to the first target struck. What did I take here? You deflect incoming attacks while Blade Dancing, absorbing damage up to 50% of your maximum health. The final slash of Blade Dance inflicts an additional chaos damage over 4 seconds. The final slash of Blade Dance deals an additional 50% damage. When you activate Metamorphosis, Blade Dance and Eye Beam are immediately reset. Entering demon form causes your next to right. And then Blade Dance, Chaos Strike, and Glaive Tempest. Reduce the cooldown of Eye Beam by 1 second. So, First Blood, Trail of Ruin, and Dancing with Fate are kind of the three that you've always been able to take. So Blade Dance is one of the few abilities in the game that works for single target damage or AoE damage, either or. And 35% Fury really isn't that much, so you can pretty well keep it on cooldown. The next thing was Eye Beam. That is your biggest damage ability. I didn't really take anything specific for it. It's pretty good on its own. It's the first ability you get. For Vengeance, Fail Devastation is the first ability you get. So as I said, there's kind of some parallels there. Let's see here. Went over that. So Metamorphosis resets it. Eye Beam deals guaranteed critical strike. That I would say definitely go ahead and take. When Eye Beam finishes fully channeling, your haste is increased by 10% for 10 seconds. So this is kind of a personal choice. I haven't struggled with haste. I've noticed I kind of took a few different things that I think are stacking that generate haste. Thought there was something else. Eye Beam causes you to enter demon form for 5 seconds after it finishes dealing damage. So this is super good. I've rarely ever had to use Metamorphosis, and I think this is partially why. So in 5 seconds, you can either use Blade Dance and then a Chaos Strike. They're demon form versions. Or you can use like 2 or 3 Chaos Strikes, depending on where your Fury's at. So it's not for nothing, and this is only on a 40-second cooldown. And Blade Dance and Chaos Strike are reducing the cooldown by 1 second. So, yeah, as long as Blade Dance, or as long as Eye Beam, excuse me, is off cooldown, you can trigger Demonic and get to use the more powerful versions of Blade Dance and Chaos Strike. I did want to look though. So, there we go. I thought I took something else. There you go. Fail Rush increases your movement speed by 10 per second. No. Thought I took something else for haste. Apparently not. Yeah. So, those are mainly the two abilities that I use. So, I will open with Immolation Aura, use Blade Dance, then typically use Eye Beam, Sigil of Flame when appropriate. I did take some things, so sigils trigger faster and at the target location. So the Demon Hunter talents are pretty much, I took pretty much the same thing for Vengeance and Havoc. I mainly just had to set up the specific talents. Havoc is about the same as Vengeance, generally speaking, until you get to about the middle. The lower part on Vengeance is more utility, kind of CC, kind of abilities. On Havoc, of course, it's more kind of DPS focused. So the right side here, about halfway down. Let's see here, 'cause I don't want to miss anything. Yeah. So I skipped Sigil of Misery. You get this by default for Vengeance. I don't use it. I don't need it. Um, all sigils are now placed at your target's location. So for me, this is very beneficial to have. I cannot stand the whole kind of at target location thing. I don't mind it so much as a healer, but when you're trying to, especially tank, or when you're trying to DPS and kind of run around, it makes things simpler just to be able to target, hit an ability, and then use Blade Dance or something. Um, Especially with some tanks, they just pull and just keep going. So you can place this down, even if you were trying to do it at a target location. You can place this down, and they'll run right through it because the tank's just pulling more. So there is a bit more likelihood that it'll actually get used if it's at a target location than trying to stop and figure out where we're moving to and all of that. Um, Sigils activate 1 second faster. Afflicting an enemy with a sigil generates one lesser soul fragment. I swapped out Flames of Fury. I thought the talent point was better spent. I wasn't going to use the Decree. Alcyon Decree. So this one and the Hunt were both, what were they? Arden Wields? Night Fae. There we go. Night Fate abilities. Um, and yeah. So as I said, I swapped out Flames of Fury. I think to put it into Soul Rendering. Um, the only other thing I swapped out, so Fail Rush in Legion, and if I remember right, the expansion after Legion. So with the talent we had, um, the talent Rose, it appeared as though you could set up kind of like a fail rush build. And it never, you could kind of take some things that specifically favored fail rush and vengeful retreat to a greater or lesser extent. Um, it never really worked though. Like fail rush always has done a little bit of damage, and it for good or bad. It's never done a ton of damage where it's been beneficial to specifically use it. And if you're trying to use the movement speed because it's doing damage, you can accidentally pull things you didn't want. So it's a bit of a mixed ability depending on when you're using it. Whereas Vengeful Retreat um, snares enemies when you vault away, does a bit of physical damage being the better damage type you can do, and reduces movement speed. So it's a bunch of kind of smaller abilities built into one thing. And much in the same way, like with hunters, hunters have an ability that lets them bounce back. You don't use it too terribly often. It's nice to have, especially if you're trying to move out of something. Um, you can always double jump and kind of glide over it to kind of reposition yourself if you're in a dungeon or a raid. Um, Outside of that, though, there's just not a whole lot of use for bouncing backwards. And Fail Rush and Vengeful Retreat were kind of two of the abilities that were kind of signature abilities with when Demon Hunter first came out. Um, being able to bounce back and then rush forward back into combat and then blade dance and all of that. So there was heavy emphasis on movement with demon hunters. And while that is still true as far as how much that affects your DPS output, um, I think they've kind of got away from that. So, um, that being said, I had taken Dash of Chaos, which was supposed to let you um, rush forward, and then if you hit fail rush again, you would return to where you dashed from. There just was no reason to take this. I tried playing with it. The main issue was you couldn't use fail rush twice in a row. You would rush forward and then rush back and then rush forward and then rush back. Like it was just kind of nonsense. Um, Considering that you have vengeful retreat, and the biggest use for this ability is the movement speed increase. So um, that I think was the only thing. So I just took the next talent over, which increases damage, which I didn't necessarily want to do, but that's what happens if I try to swap it out for something else. So the one of the unfortunate things with these talent trees. So um, yeah. So as far as damage abilities go, that was pretty much it. Um, as you saw, I did take the hunt. This was what I took in Shadowlands. Um, I did at least at some point level my Demon Hunter. I don't remember doing a whole lot with Demon Hunter in Shadowlands, but I do remember leveling um, at least enough to get the Covenant ability. So what I will do just for fun is use Vengeful Retreat to bounce back. And then while I'm bouncing back, I'll swap, um, change swap bars. And then when I land, hit this because it does have like a bit of a charge time to it. So um, it takes a second or two, and then it'll dash forward and hit the target. So, and it does put a dot on the target besides doing a ton of damage. So, um, Blade Dance leaves a dot, Immolation Aura leaves a dot, Sigil Flame leaves a dot. So as I said, you do a ton of damage, um, or can do a ton of damage with Havoc. I did want to mention, as I said, so survivability, kind of self-healing is kind of an issue. Um, so as I said earlier, I took Soul Rendering, so increases Leech, gain an additional 10% Leech while Metamorphosis is active, so that does work with Demonic. Aside from that, I took um, Desperate Instincts. Blur now reduces damage taken by an additional 10%. Additionally, you trigger Blur with 50% reduced cooldown and duration when you fall below 35% health. This effect can only occur when Blur is not on cooldown. So this has become mainly an emergency ability. I really don't need to use Blur otherwise. Very rarely do I ever have to um, use the ability myself. I usually will just let the passive trigger it, and it does actually trigger the cooldown. So you can't you can't gain the passive effect and then wait for the duration to expire and then use the ability again yourself. You have to wait for it to come off cooldown, which is, I feel like, unfortunate. I guess it makes sense. Um, it's increasing your dodge, though. and reduces all damage taken by 30%. So it's not doing the same thing as say Darkness is. And I kind of went back and forth with this on whether I wanted to take Darkness. I never really used it as Vengeance, which may have been a really weird way of looking at it because Vengeance is a tank, but it never came in. I took it as kind of an emergency ability because it is a good ability. I do remember that. Um, like I said, I just never used it. I could see taking this if I do more with PvP. Um, I think it'll have, I think I'll get a bigger benefit off of it from there. Um, as far as like doing dungeons or like Emerald Dream or anything like that, it's mainly kind of a DPS race. You want to try to burn them down before they have a chance to kill you. And for the most part, I'm able to do that. I had some healing potions from Shadowlands, so I just was kind of using those periodically. I'm going to make some more from Dragonflight. I went out and was gathering herbs at one point to try to level herbalism, and then I'm going to make some. I can make potions like fairly early on with alchemy, so I'm going to do that. Um, so I don't know that I need this for PvE things, but definitely for PvP, I could see going back in and trying to see what I could swap around to take it. Um, but the main difference is that I was trying to point out was this actually reduces damage, yeah, from all attacks. Chance to avoid damage increased by 100% when not in a raid. So 5 minutes for um, just a straight damage reduction. Granting friendly targets, so basically anyone that stands in the area. Whereas the blur, there we go, increases your dodge chance. Now dodge is pretty good. Rogues have an ability that increases their dodge. Evasion? I think it's evasion. Um, that being said, it's just kind of a weird. Yeah, it's just kind of a weird. Like if you were to use it and then you were in a fight that maybe you weren't familiar with, and then you had, um, say a boss mechanic or something that brought you down to 35% health, this wouldn't trigger because Blur was on cooldown. So it's just kind of a weird way that it works. Um, so I've thought about trying to swap it out for something else. I'm leaving it now just as kind of an emergency ability. Even if I do take Darkness, I'll still probably just leave it as an emergency ability. It's not a terrible thing to have. Has come in useful a few times, kind of does function as somewhat of like a cheat death. Um, so aside from that, that's pretty much it. Um, as I said, don't really use Metamorphosis much, but you get it by default, so um, yeah. Chaos Nova. Do use Chaos Nova from time to time. So as I said, if you're in a group where, like doing time walking, if you're in a group where the tank just, instead of like pulling, then just trying to, burn those down and then pull the next pack, if they just want to run in and pull everything, Chaos Nova can help to kind of stun so the DPS has a chance to burn them down before things get out of hand. Um, and yeah, so as I said, um, this was kind of my simplified overview. If you're curious how I came to pick the talents that I did, the second part will be me resetting the talents. Okay, so I've been playing as Vengeance and been doing well with that. So I want to kind of compare and set up Havoc so I can do some different things. I have some end game things I want to do when I hit 70. Um, just some more kind of casual things, but I think it would be better to do it as DPS rather than trying to do everything as a tank. So, um, this is where my talents are. Seeing as I've done nothing with Demon Hunter till now in Dragonflight, I guess they reset my talents at some point. I think my Vengeance talents were semi set up, so I don't know if I try to do something with Vengeance at some point. Um, Regardless, kind of have a clean slate. So, go ahead and start with the Havoc talents. I think the Demon Hunter talents are going to be a little bit more straightforward. So, I-Beam, of course, that was kind of the signature ability for Havoc. Immolation Aura. So I think this is going to be kind of the same way that Vengeance is, where like the right side's more kind of AoE focused, the left side's more kind of single target utility, kind of left side middle. Generates Fury, that's probably fine. Let's see here, Throw Glaze. Probably won't be using Throw Glaze as much. You deflect incoming attacks while Blade Dance. Blade Dance damage 50% of your maximum health. Like that. Blade Dance now reduces target's healing received. Probably not really going to be doing much PvP, so that's probably fine. I do want to get rid of Demon Blades. Deals 50% more damage and generates. Do I need to use this at all? The chance that Chaos Strike will refund 20%. Fury is increased by 30% of your critical strike. Improved fail rush increases damage by 20%. For 2 seconds after using fail rush, activating your movement will dash back towards your initial location. I kind of like that. Let's go with that. It's kind of like the you can do this with the one evoker ability. And you've also been able to do it as Arcane Mage. They had a separate ability that would let you could blink and then displacement would place you back to where you blinked from. So those abilities can actually be really helpful. Well, based on your critical strike, okay, that's probably fine. You're depending on how you gear as a tank. Your critical strike increases your parry if you play a tank spec. So you typically will have a little bit higher critical strike. So that's kind of nice to see they're trying to use it for something else on a DPS spec. Chaos strike damage increase. That's probably fine. Blade dance deals chaos damage first. Okay, that's probably fine. So there's always kind of been a way to set Havoc up so that Blade Dance does kind of a lot of the work. So it does AoE damage, it does single target damage to the first target. It puts a dot on. Like, there's been a lot of things you could end up kind of building into the one ability through the talents. Blur reduces damage taken by an additional 10%. Additionally, you automatically trigger Blur 50% of its cooldown, and Blur is kind of like the version of Darknet, right? Increases chance to dodge. Okay, that's probably fine. I've used Netherwalk briefly in the past. Wasn't all that taken with it, so Desperate Instincts is fine. You detect incoming attacks while blade. Okay, so that one's the one I already picked. Throw Glaze. Probably not going to use that. The Final Slash. There we go. There's the dot. So Final Slash blade that collects an additional over 4 seconds. Yeah, I'm going to take that. Before they damage you, increases your critical strike chance. Refreshes your potential to trigger this effect. Increases versatility by 4% and reduces threat generation by 8%. That I'm gonna grab. When you activate, hold down the blade dance, maybe more immediately upset. Where is my demon form? Okay, there we go. So leap in the air. Is this a... And then with explosive force. I think... Yeah, that's what I thought. So unlike the Vengeful version of this, this is actually a target on location ability, which I do not like. I wish it worked the same way for Havoc it does for Vengeance. So I'm going to skip that for the moment. Yeah. See if I'm able, how far down I'm able to get. I-beam generates every second damage and duration increased by 2%. That's fine. Fully channeling, your haste is increased by an additional 10% for the attack. That's fine. Okay, so Chaos Nova, I-beam, and Immolation. Aura gain bonuses when striking one target. Stun duration increased by 2 seconds. Deals 30% increased damage. Always critical strike when striking one target. So, with the exception of I-beam, how helpful is that? Yeah, because Immolation Aura is really not doing much. If it's just one target, I have Imprison. So, one-on-one I'm not concerned about all that much. The Final Slash deals good super damage. Okay, we'll take that. Immolation damage is increased by 10% each time it deals damage. Sure. One thing I'm discovering even with Vengeance is Demon Hunters don't have a lot of AoE, so you tend to As Vengeance, I tend to keep Immolation Aura on cooldown. So I imagine, although Blade Dance is kind of the preferred kind of AoE ability for Havoc, I imagine I'm still going to be using Immolation Aura quite a bit. So for what I have in mind to do, Demon Blade, so this will get shifted out. So I imagine it would be Demon's Bite. There we go. That's the ability. Leave open wounds on your enemy, dealing chaos damage over 15 seconds and increasing damage taken from your Relation Aura. Maybe applied to up to 3 targets. I like that. That's different. Okay, so we'll go ahead and take this because I want this. Now we need to take one more ability. Vengeful refreshes your potential to trigger this effect on any enemy you are in combat with. And we'll take that, that's fine. Generating more fury. I don't have problems generating fury as Vengeance. I can always re-look at things if that seems to be an issue later. Okay, so each time Immolation deals damage, 30% of your damage dealt. 3 targets is gathered as raged fire. When Immolation Aura expires, you explode, dealing all stored raged fire. Oh, nice. Oh, I like that. Chaos Strike has a 10% chance to trigger a second Chaos Strike. Chaos Strike is... Okay, so that's the single target. It's been a minute since I've done anything with Havoc. Cause the targets take additional 100% of damage dealt. Blade Dance causes your next Chaos Strike. 10 seconds to have a 14 to 30% increased critical strike chance. And we'll always refund Fury. Glaive Tempest. Launch 2 demonic glaives at in a whirlwind of energy, causing chaos damage for 3 seconds by enemies. Deals reduced damage beyond 8 targets. Entering demon form causes your next Chaos Strike to unleash your inner demon, causing it to crash into your target. Deal chaos damage to all enemies. Deals damage. Damage reduced beyond 5 targets. Leaving demon form grants a charge of Fail Rush and increases the damage of your next Blade Dance by 50%. Your chaos damage has a 7.70% chance to increase by 17%, occurring up to 3 total times. will. This wouldn't be terrible. Causes your next chaos strike. So, for Havoc... Yeah, empowering your Chaos Strike and Demon Blade abilities. Okay, so they transform into other things, so you're not going to really be using... Or no, you would be using Chaos Strike, never mind, I was thinking it was Demon's... What, Demon's Bite? Yeah, Demon's Bite, yeah. Your next Chaos Strike to unleash your inner demon. Shall nearby enemies. So that could potentially be really good. I don't use Chaos Strike that often, so I'm kind of being a little picky with picking a talent just for that. But this could be good. And chances are, if you're using your demon form, you are either against one... You're against multiple opponents or against one really tough opponent. So either way, the extra damage could be helpful. Gain critical strike damage equal to 40% of your critical strike chance. Kinda want that. I've wanted 2 charges of Immolation Aura as Vengeance, so I'm going to take it as Havoc, just to just to please myself. So we'll see how effective that is. Blade Dance, Chaos Strike, and Glaive Tempest. I don't think I took Glaive Tempest, did I? Or was that? No. Oh, there we go. Yeah, no. I did not. Just cool down if I beat by 5 seconds. My beam has a 40-second cooldown. Chaos damage. Now also causes your arcane fire nature shadow damage to be dealt. Oh. Okay, not bad. So let's... I don't know, do I want to take that? Sure. Okay. So, and it won't let me lock that in because I have talents on the other side that need to be used. So I am glad to see I don't have to take Sigil of Misery. This is a default for Vengeance, and I never use it. It's one of the lesser sigils, I would say. So Vengeful Retreat, that makes sense. That was one of the signature abilities for Demon Hunter when they came out. So I would expect that to be kind of a default. Same with Fell Rush. That's fine. Vengeful Retreat reduces the movement speed of all nearby enemies by 70% for 3 seconds. That's fine. Increases maximum fury by 20. That's fine. Healing of Shattered Souls is increased by 10, so I believe Shattered Souls is Soul Fragments. Creates a Soul Fragment when you approach it. Healing for 20. Yeah. Yeah, so that's fine. Yeah. In the past, Havoc's weak spot has been self-healing, so I'll take that. One additional target. Chaos Nova, sure. Increases the range of Disrupt, which is your silence. I don't think I need Consume Magic. You heal for 3% of all fire damage you deal, sure. Increases your chance to parry by 3%. Is this the... kind of, yes, okay, so, sure. I think there's going to be things further down this side I want, the right side. So, increases your critical strike chance when you parry an attack, or have one of your attacks parried, restore 4% of your maximum health and 10 fury. Sure. Spectral Sight lasts for an additional 6 seconds. If disrupted by attack or taking damage. I have 2 charges of this, so sure. Increases your armor, causes melee attackers to suffer. Okay. Okay. Each enemy stunned by Chaos Nova has a 30% chance to grant Monster Soul Fragment. I do use this quite a bit. So that could be good. That's 2 charges. Okay, I'm not really using it. I mostly use it for threat. Because it generates... well, it's Vengeance. It generates high threat. I doubt I'll be using it as often as Havoc. Causes you to enter, sure. Mastery now increases your movement speed, sure. Fail Rush increases movement speed by 10% for 8 seconds. Sure. Not really using a lot of interrupts during Dragonflight, so... During both the Mythic Plus seasons I've done, I've hardly, if ever, used my spell interrupt, so... Like, there's just not that many bosses that have anything that needs to be interrupted, so... Don't think I need Fail Blade. I do need one more, though. reduces magical damage taken by 5%. Magic damage is the worst of the things you can take. And that's the most likely the thing you're going to find in instances, and that's kind of more what I was leaning towards. Okay, so Sigil Talents activate 1 second faster, affecting an enemy's signal, generates. Okay. Sigil of Flame does 35% increased damage and generates 1 additional. Okay, where is... So, I'm not going to have Sigil of Chains, because I'm taking it, it was a... Wasn't sure if it was part of the Vengeance Talents or the Demon Hunter Talents. I'm thinking now it was probably part of the Vengeance Talents, because I'm not seeing it. Which is fine. What? Okay, so I'm mainly just going to have Sigil of Flame, then. Right? Yeah, so in that event, does it make much sense to take a bunch of stuff for sigils if that's all I'm taking? Yeah. Yeah, I didn't miss anything. Yeah, okay. So, let's see here. So, affecting an enemy with a sigil grants 1 lesser soul shard, so that's probably fine. All sigils activate 1 second faster. Enemies deal 8% increased damage. Sigil of Flame does 75% increased damage and generates 1 additional. Okay. Arcane damage, 3, okay. 30 seconds. Okay, I did want the haunt back again. Cooldown of Fail Rush is reduced by... Okay. Do I need darkness? I was able to take this as Vengeance. I never use it as Vengeance, but Vengeance is a tank. So I don't really... It's more kind of an emergency ability for Vengeance. Thinking if I actually have a place to put it. I'm gonna have to move some things around on my command bar. I guess I'll take it. I guess it's better to take it and not need it than need it and not have it, so. I feel good with that. Somewhat of a try and see kind of a build, I feel like, so. Yeah, so there you go, folks. Hope you enjoyed that, and thank you for watching.